Ever wondered how a single aircraft could make the entire, colossal Soviet air defense system completely obsolete? Well, today, we're rediving into one of the most game-changing stories in military aviation. The tale of the F-117 Nighthawk. This isn't just a story about a plane. It's a story about a revolution that happened in the shadows. Back in the Cold War, the world was a chessboard of superpowers. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a tense standoff, each trying to outsmart the other with bigger, faster, and deadlier technology. The Soviets had built what they believed was an impenetrable wall of air defenses. We're talking thousands of radar installations, surface-to-air missile sites, and interceptor aircraft, all networked together. This system, known as the PVO, was designed to detect and destroy any incoming NATO aircraft long before they could reach their targets. For the US and its allies, this was a massive problem. How do you get past a fortress in the sky? The conventional thinking was to fly faster and higher. Think of the SR-71 Blackbird, a marvel of engineering that outran missiles. Another approach was to fly extremely low, using the terrain to mask your approach from radar, a technique called above-the-earth flying. But both of these methods were incredibly risky and getting more dangerous as Soviet technology improved. The US Air Force needed something radical, something that didn't just try to beat the system, but to make the system irrelevant. They needed a plane that was, for all intents and purposes, invisible. This is where the idea of stealth comes in. Now, stealth isn't about being truly invisible to the naked eye, like a sci-fi cloaking device. It's about being invisible to radar. And the concept itself wasn't brand new. During World War II, a German flying wing prototype, the Horten Ho 229, had some inherently stealthy characteristics, although that wasn't its primary design goal. But turning this theoretical advantage into a practical, operational aircraft was a monumental task. The breakthrough came from a place you might not expect, a secretive branch of Lockheed known as the Skunk Works, led by the legendary aircraft designer Kelly Johnson and later Ben Rich. This team was famous for creating spy planes like the U-2 and the SR-71. In the 1970s, they got their hands on some obscure Soviet research papers on radar reflectivity. A physicist named Pyotr Ofimtsev had developed equations that could predict how a shape would reflect radar waves. The Soviet military didn't see the practical value in his work, but the engineers at Skunk Works did. They realized that if you could predict how radar reflects, you could design a shape that reflects almost nothing back to the radar receiver. Using this theory, they developed a computer program called Echo 1. This program allowed them to design an aircraft made of flat panels, or facets, angled precisely to deflect radar waves away from the source, like a disco ball scattering light. The result was a design that looked like nothing anyone had ever seen before. It was angular, alien, and utterly bizarre. This was the birth of the Have Blue project, the secret demonstrator that would prove the concept of a stealth fighter. The Have Blue prototype was intentionally small and unstable. In fact, it was so aerodynamically unstable that it could only be flown with the help of a sophisticated fly-by-wire computer system, making constant tiny adjustments. The pilots who flew it nicknamed it the Hopeless Diamond because of its shape. But despite its wanky flying characteristics, it worked. During secret tests in the Nevada desert, Have Blue repeatedly flew against the US's own advanced radar systems and remained completely undetected. It was a staggering success. The ghost was real. With the concept proven, the US Air Force secretly awarded Lockheed the contract to build a full-sized, operational stealth attack aircraft. This became the F-117 Nighthawk. Everything about this plane was designed for low observability. Its faceted shape was just the beginning. The entire aircraft was coated with a special radar-absorbent material, or RAM. This paint-like coating was filled with tiny iron particles that would absorb radar energy and convert it into heat, further reducing the plane's radar signature. The engines were also a major challenge. Jet engines are hot and create a huge infrared signature, which can be tracked by heat-seeking missiles. Tosolbe, these the F-117's engines, were buried deep inside the fuselage, and the exhaust was vented through long, flattened platypus tailpipes. These vents mixed the hot exhaust with cool ambient air, dramatically reducing the plane's heat signature from below and behind. Even the air intakes were covered with fine gratings to prevent radar waves from bouncing off the spinning fan blades of the engines. The result of all this engineering wizardry was an aircraft with a radar cross-section, or RCS, of a small bird, or even a marble. To a Soviet radar operator, an F-117 flying towards them wouldn't look like a plane. It would be a tiny, fleeting blip, indistinguishable from background noise or atmospheric clutter. The backbone of the Soviet PVO relied on a chain of detection. Early warning radars would spot an intruder, pass the information to tracking radars, which would then guide missiles or fighters to intercept. The F-117 broke that chain at the very first link. If you can't be detected, you can't be tracked. And if you can't be tracked, you can't be shot down. 4 years, the F-117 program was one of the most closely guarded secrets in the US military. The planes flew only at night, out of a secluded airbase in Tonopah, Nevada. The public had no idea it even existed until 1988, when the Pentagon finally released a single, grainy photo. The world was stunned. The Fi-117's true test, and its grand debut on the world stage, came during Operation Desert Storm in 1991. On the very first night of the war, F-117s were the tip of the spear. They flew deep into Iraq, targeting the most heavily defended command and control centers, communication hubs, and air defense sites in Baghdad. The Iraqi air defense system, built by the Soviets, was considered one of the most formidable in the world, but it was completely blind to the Nighthawks. While conventional aircraft had to fight their way through a storm of anti-aircraft fire and surface-to-air missiles, the F-117s slipped through undetected. They surgically destroyed their targets with laser-guided bombs and were heading home before the Iraqis even knew what hit them. During the entire conflict, F-117s flew nearly 1,300 sorties, hit over 1,600 high-value targets, and not a single one was shot down or even damaged by enemy fire. They were responsible for disabling 40% of Iraq's strategic targets, despite making up only 2.5% of the coalition's fighter force. This performance sent a shockwave through the military world, especially in Moscow. The Soviets suddenly realized that their multi-billion-dollar air defense network, the cornerstone of their national security, was a paper tiger. A handful of these strange, black jets could fly unopposed to the heart of their country and decapitate their leadership and military command structure at will. The balance of power had been completely rewritten, not by a bigger bomb or a faster missile, but by the power of being invisible. The F-117 didn't just defeat the Soviet air defense system, it rendered the entire philosophy behind it obsolete. It was a checkmate move in the Cold War's technological chess game, proving that the future of air combat belonged to stealth. The Nighthawk has since been retired, replaced by even more advanced stealth aircraft like the F-22 and F-35. But its legacy is undeniable. It was the plane that taught the world a new way to fly, a new way to fight, and proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon is the one you never see coming. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this look into aviation history, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Let us know in the comments what other legendary aircraft you'd like to see us cover. See you in the next one.